the worksheet, isn't it? Yes? I think you are all getting ready to check the worksheet. Yes? Come, let's go to check the worksheet. Yes, come. The first Roman number, worksheet 11. The first Roman number is fill in the blanks. In the first one, root, stem and leaves are called. Root, stem and leaves. In the parts of a plant, these parts are called what? Yes, very good. Vegetative organs. These are vegetative organs. Vegetative organs. The second one is, what is the second question? Plants reproduced from seeds that process as. Plants reproduced from seeds. From seeds or without the seeds. Two types of reproduction we have seen, no? So reproduced from seeds. The answer is yes, good. Sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction. The third question is, gas is produced from your flower by the process of pollination and fertilization. Gas is produced from your flower. From the flower, which one going to be produced? By the process of pollination and fertilization. Yes, good. Seed. Seed is produced from a flower by the process of pollination and fertilization. The fourth one is, the outermost ring of a sepals is called. The outermost ring of a sepals. The outermost ring of a sepals. Sepals, petals we have seen, no. First, the outermost ring of a sepals is called, yes, good, calyx. Calyx. The fifth question is, the outermost ring of a petals is called. The outermost ring of a petals. First one we have seen the sepals. Here the petals. Petals is called corolla. Yes, good. Corolla. The second Roman number is answering one word. Name the reproductive organ of a plant. In the plant, which part is a reproductive organ? Which part? It is a colorful, attractive part of a plant also. So what is the reproductive organ? Yes, very good. It is a flower. The answer is flower. The second question is, name the part of your flower that attracts insects and birds for pollination. Name the part of your flower that attracts. Which part is going to be attracted? The insects and birds. Which one? Colorful part. It is a petals. The answer is petals. The answer is petals. Have you clear about this? I hope you are all correct this first Roman number fully. The second Roman number, answering one word, the third question. Shall we go to the third question now? Yes. The third question is, what is the third question? Name the male reproductive part of a flower. Name the male reproductive part. Name the male reproductive part of a flower. What is the third question? Name the male reproductive part of a flower. Which is the male reproductive part? Which is the male reproductive part of the flower? Yes, very good. Stamen. Male reproductive part is a stamen. The fourth question is, name the female reproductive part. Name the female reproductive part of the female. Name the female reproductive part of a flower. What is the name of that? Pistil. Good, pistil. The fifth question sakura. Stamens, stalked structure stamens, how many present? Hibiscus, many stalked structures are there, stalked stamens, but here 5 only. It is a countable. We learned no. So, yes, good. The answer is 5 only. 5 countable stalks only there. So, the answer is 5. Have you clear about this? Shall we go to the third Roman number? Third Roman number is answer the following questions. Answer the following questions. The first question is what is reproduction? What is reproduction? What is the answer here? The process in which plants and animals produce their young ones. The answer is reproduction. The process in which plants and animals produce young ones is called reproduction. Are we clear about this? Once again I repeat the first question. In third Roman number, what is reproduction? The process in which plants and animals produce young ones from their offspring or parents. Shall we go to the second question? Yes. The second question is what is pollination? What is meant by the pollination? Second question is what is pollination? Pollination means what? The transfer of pollen grains into stigma. The transfer of pollen grains into stigma. So the pollen grains reaches the stigma. Also we can say the pollen grains reaches the stigma. The pollen grains reaches the stigma, as well as we can say the transfer of pollen grains into the stigma. Also we can write. Okay. Have you clear? I hope you will be correct, everyone. Yes. Have you checked everyone all the 3 Roman numbers? Have you go to the today's class? Yes. Come. Let's go to see the today's topic. What is the unit name? Which unit we are learning now? We are learning unit 5. What is the topic name? Reproduction and modifications in plants. So unit 5, reproduction and modification in plants. Modifications in plants. So what we are going to learn about this? Modification in plants. Yes. What we have seen in the previous class. Already we have learned everything now. What we have learned about this? About the flower. How the flower going to changes into fruit. Yes. Previous classes, from the seed only the new plant will be grown, we have seen. But here what we have seen about this? Here how the flower going to be changes into a fruit. By the step by step, how the fertilization, pollination and fertilization going to take place. Everything we have learned. Yes? Yes or no? So the parts of a plant, everything we have seen. See here how the flower develops into fruits. How to develops the flower into fruit into flowers. Flower develops into fruit. Yes. Now the flower of a pumpkin flower is very easily to find out the male and female flowers. How it is how we have to find out it is easy through the experiment. I will explain now. See, the first one, suddenly before going to blossom, the buds of the pumpkin plant, buds one bud will be going to be created. Similarly, immediately we can identify the another 10 female buds from the surroundings. One small bud it will be can appear. Suddenly we can identify 10 female flowers. So that female buds we have to cover using the plastic bag. We can prevent them outermost materials can enter into the female bud. So we have to cover the 10 female buds using a plastic bags. Then what we have to do? We have to put a small hole inside the plastic bag to enter the air. Because to air the small holes with a pin to air, 2 or 3 days it will be bloom. Okay, so within the 2 or 3 days all the female flowers will be bloom. After that what we have to do? We have to take the 5 female flowers out of 10. Again some other male flowers also there, no? From the male flowers we have to take the stamens. Inside the stamens, without touching, we have to take it the pollen grains on the paper. We have to dust the pollen grains on into the paper and collect it. Again we have to use a paint brush, keep it on the, I told no, out of 10, 5 female buds of the flower only bloom flowers we have to insert the pollen grains. Out of 10, just 5 flowers only we have to add the stamens. So through the way, after getting some days it will be grown. All those things after getting matured, some which part of the flower we have given the pollen grains, that pollen grains only to form a fruit. But remaining the 5 we didn't give the pollen grains, no, that one without the fruit we can able to identify. So through the way we can find out the male and female flowers. How it is very easy to find out the flowers through the pumpkin plant. Okay, so how, as well as some other experiment also. Through the experiment we have explained about the pollination also. What is mean by the pollination? See what is mean by the pollination. Now also we have seen, no, the pollen grains reaches the stigma. The pollen grains reaches the stigma. Here the pollination are divided into 2. One is the artificial pollination, another one is the natural pollination. Artificial pollination, another one is the natural pollination. In the artificial pollination, we are transfer the pollen grains to the stigma. That is the artificial pollination. But in nature, by the wind, air, water, and then some insects and birds through the way. Normally, in nature, the pollen grains are transferred to the stigma. That is called natural pollination. Yes, have you clear about this? How the natural pollination and then artificial pollination. The pollen grains are reaches to the stigma is called pollination, as well as what are the plants? Definitely all the flowers does not reach the pollen grains. Some flowers reaches the pollen grains, some flowers does not reach the pollen grains. So depending on this, according to they are categorized into 2. One is the what are the flowers receiving the pollen grains, that flower are pollinated flowers. What are the plants? Flower while they did not receive the pollen grains, that kind of flowers are unpollinated flower. What kind of flower receiving the pollen grains? That is called pollinated flower. What are the plants? Which kind of plant that did not receive the pollen grains? That kind of plants are called unpollinated flower. So according to receiving the pollen grains, they are categorized into the flower kinds too. Okay, are we clear about this? Are we clear about the pollination also? Shall we go to the next topic? Yes. The next one is, in some plants like grasses, yes, self-pollination are already according to the segregation of pollen grains also, they will be categorized into artificial pollination and then natural pollination we have seen. But the pollination, how it is going to be reached in one part of the plant flower are different kind of, same kind of different part of a plant. Yes, so through the way they are categorized into two, the pollination are self-pollination and then cross-pollination, like that. So we are seeing the grasses, grasses, some different kinds of plants are there. The grasses, it is a very light in nature. Through the wind, it is going to be flew away to some other plants. With the same kind of plant only going to be get a reproduction, but other kind of plants does not get it. It's like the stamens shed pollen grains. So in the grasses, stamens shed the pollen grains through the wind and water, or insects also. Insects, birds also coming and carrying the pollen grains through our body, our legs, or the wings of the abdomen region, everything. The pollen grains are going to be carried. The same birds are going to be to some other plants of the same kind. It is going to be transfer the pollen grains to some other plant of the stigma. So through the way also the pollination going to be takes place. So this type of pollination are called cross pollination, as well as by the wind. By the wind, the pollen grains are, it is a very powdery in nature. So through the wind it will be flow to fall into the another kind of flower. Another kind of flower to another plant. Another kind of flower, it's in the same plant, different flower going to be takes place. The pollination, it is the self-pollination only. Cross-pollination means in the one flower, the pollen grains are transferred to the another part of the plant. So that is the cross-pollination. Okay, have you clear about this? When the shake the stamens, pollen grains are fall out, that time it is going to be by the butterflies, insects, beetles, cow, cattle taking the feed, that time feeding the grass, that time also it will be carry the pollen grains, everything going to be occurred done by the cross pollination. Have you clear about the cross pollination and then self pollination? Here that is cross pollination. That is one planted in the same kind. Here the pollen grains are transferred to another plant of the, it is the same kind only. Same kind of plant only having this pollen grains are transferred to another part of the flower, but it is in the same kind only. Okay, have you clear about this? Have you clear about the pollination? Yes, shall we go to the fertilization? Shall we go to the fertilization? As well as in many plants, not even all the plants does not take a same kind of, the pollen grains are transferred to some other plants. Definitely it is not the same kind, different kind only it is going to be occur. What it will happen? Does not reproduce going to be takes place. That time what it is going to be occur? The gynosium matures, but androsium does not, without mature. So that time only it is a male flower and then female flower. As well as the male flower, androsium only present, without gynosium means it is a male flower. As well as gynosium only present this flower, androsium was absent. Without androsium, that is a female flower. So according to this, they are categorized into the male and female flower. For example, plants such as apples, plums, strawberries, these types of plants also coming under by the cross pollination. Have you clear about this pollination of cross pollination and then self pollination? Let us go to see the next topic. Yes, still what we have seen about the pollination. The pollen grains are reaches to the stigma part alone we have seen. The next function only, the both of the function only coming under by the sexual reproduction. Half only we have seen. The remaining part after receiving the pollen grains into the stigma, what it will happen? After receiving stigma after style, the finger-like projections, it is in a tube-like structure is there no, in between the ovary and stigma. So through the way all the pollen grains reaches to the ovary, what it will happen? Now we are going to learn about this. Next what we are going to learn about the fertilization. What is meant by the fertilization? The fusion of male and female gametes through the pollen grains. Already I told you the fusion of male and female gamete to form a zygote. This process is called fertilization. After receiving the pollen grains are reaches to the ovary through the style. So after receiving the pollen grains to the ovary, what it will happen? The male and the female reproduct, the male and female gametes to form a zygote is called, the process is called fertilization. Here the male gamete means pollen grains. The male gametes and the female. Male and female gametes also we can write male gametes and female gamete. Male and female gamete. The male and female gametes to form a zygote. The fusion of male and female. The fusion of male and female gametes to form a zygote. This process is known as fertilization. This process is known as fertilization. Have you clear about the fertilization? Yes, my dear children. This process is fertilization. Next, life cycle of how the plants going to be come from the seed. How the plant going to be come out from the seeds. Now let us go to see about this. See here what we are going to learn. Yes, the next one is life cycle of a plant. How from the seeds, the flower, from the flower, how the fruits going to be converted as. See here what we are, it's going to be takes place. From the seeds only the new plant will be grown. Yes. So from the plant the flower will be come out. So inside the flower, here the stamen and pistil, both of them is present in the same flower. It is a unisexual flower or complete flower we have seen. So here it is a mature plant to produce flowers. It is a mature plant. After getting a mature only, the flower only produce. Yes, all we know very well. So inside the plant, the mature plant producing a produce flower. Inside this, the stamen having a two parts. Yes, one is anther and then tube-like stalk-like structure is a filament. Inside the anther having a pollen grains. Inside the anther, that is the anther part. Inside present in the stamen, it is a male reproductive part of a flower. So inside the anther, a small brown-like structure is there. It is a pollen grains. The pollen grains are transferred to the stigma of a pistil. It is also one of the female reproductive part of a flower. So here, that is a petals part. Here, it is a ovary. Inside the ovary having a ovule. The ovule one is converted as a seed. Inside the seed having a egg. It is a female reproductive part. So the egg is there. Here the anther where it is located, and inside the anther the pollen grains are present. The pollen grains are transferred to the stigma of a flower. So here it is a powdery in nature. The pollen grains already we told. Stigma, it is a sticky part. After it is going to be stick it into the stigma, through the stem it will be sent it to the ovary. After getting it will be coming as a reaches to the egg and going to fuse the male and female gametes here. So here only the fertilization going to be takes place. After getting the fertilization, the fertilized egg becomes the embryo. Embryo only come to the seed. Okay, have you clear about this? Here the ovary is converted as a, after getting the fertilization, ovary is converted into a fruits. Inside the ovule converted as a seeds. Here the seeds only going to be get a, again it will be come back to the new plant. Have you clear about this? This is for life cycle of plant. Like that only the plant, new plant will be grown. Have you clear about this? Where it is the female gamete is located means how you have to say the answer. It is present inside the pistil of the ovary. Inside the ovary, ovule having, inside the ovule only the egg is located. Okay? Have you clear about this? We are cutting down into your two transfer section or longitudinal sections many seeds like tomato and tomato, peas, custard apple. Yes, these and all we are, if you want to cutting down, we can collect these type of so many seeds present inside this. No, how it is possible? Only one seed can produce the plant if it is there, but while we are cutting down the vertically and horizontally in manner compared to the ovary and ovule from few different flowers, how it is going to be takes place? Are there tomato? We can take the tomato. While we are cutting down into the transverse section and longitudinal section, the structure is going to be vary. Yes, structure is going to be vary. So the four natures are there. Here only it is going to be occur, as well as when we are cutting down the fruits, like that only it is going to be arranged in vertical section as well as the longitudinal section. So collect some fruits. For example, tomato, brinjal, and then lady's finger also there. No, lady's finger, mango, peas. These and all. It's one of the kinds of fruits only. How it is going to be converted as a fruit. Lady's finger is a kind of fruit only. Yes, as well as the brinjal. The brinjal and then lady's finger. Green part of the structure is one of the petals of the flower. One of the part of the petals of the flower. After getting the fertilization, some flowers only does not fall down the petals. Even the petals also going to be attached to the fruits, coming as one of the part of the fruits also. The green like structure is there in lady's finger and then brinjal. That part is one of the part of petals of a flower. Okay, lady's finger and then brinjal. As well as peas also there in mango. Mango sweet and inside only the seeds are there. The outermost sweety bulge in nature is there. No, that kind of edible fruit. While we are taking that part only is after getting the fertilization, it is one of the edible. As well as it is getting a single seed also. But compared to the custard apple, it is getting a many seeds will be present inside this type of fruits. So it is made up of many fruits aggregated. It is also one of the aggregated. Many more fruits are aggregated together. Each fruit part is a thin membranes and some of the granule like which is edible. So that is only it is a according to the arrangement. After getting the fertilization, pollination and fertilization only it is going to be arranged like this. Even the mango, pea, custard apple, lady's finger, brinjal, everything. Have you clear about this? Still, today what we have learned about this? About the pollination. Pollination are divided into two. One is a cross pollination and then self pollination. So pollen grains are transferred to stigma, that is the pollination. How the cross pollination and then self pollination going to take place, that and also we have seen. And then about the fertilization. What is mean by the fertilization? The fusion of male and female gametes. The fusion of male and female gametes to form a zygote. The process is called fertilization. And then what we have seen about the life cycle of plant. And then when we are cutting down the longitudinal as well as vertical in manner, how it is going to be arranged. That and also we have seen in each and every fruits how it is going to be arranged. Even the petals does not falling down, how it will be going to be modified in the flower to fruits. That only we have seen. And then remaining subtopics we will see the next class. Okay, have you clear about this? I hope you will be clear with this. Just to go through then and there. Don't forget everything. We will meet in next class. Okay, thank you my dear children.